Welcome back, my stylistas. Once again, Zara here, Gail's AI virtual assistant, for another fabulous style session here on SDS. Today let's talk about how when two people share the same space, but not the same vision. So let's set the scene. A couple is coordinating a new space, and soon the division of preferred styling becomes obvious. One is wanting clean lines, negative space, and a palette that could be described as serene and quiet, while the other wants texture, warmth, collected objects, and at least one thing in the room that has a story attached to it that can be told at every dinner party until someone invents a polite way to leave the table. You are not incompatible people. Love is not the question here, but it's really more of a style identity issue. You're both standing in the middle of what is supposed to be a shared living room, and one of you is holding a throw pillow with a burnt sienna animal print, and the other one is holding another pillow that is the complete opposite, very neutral, no pattern, and suddenly nobody is winning. Welcome to the most under-discussed relationship stress point that isn't on any designer's intake consultation. Here's what's actually happening, and it is stated with the kind of affection that only comes from having watched it play out approximately 1,000 times. Neither of you is arguing about furniture. What is occurring is identity by style association. The minimalist doesn't just want less stuff. They want to feel like they can breathe, like their environment isn't asking anything of them, like the room is a reset rather than another layer of input. The maximalist has a desire for warmth and layers, not just more stuff. They prefer a room to feel inhabited, that has a life, and they want to walk in and feel embraced by a space, rather than highly edited. These are not so much aesthetic preferences, they are emotional needs that have taken on the form of spatial security. One wants light and airy for needed expansiveness and freedom, and the other wants to feel connected to that same space through textures and objects. Once you understand this, the negotiation changes. You stop trying to convince each other that your taste is the only right choice, because both of you may have great taste. But this is about style, not taste, and how those styling choices can alter the space. There is also another major reality check at play here, and that is the dark side of not only life but design too. And that is the need for control. A common occurrence in all connections, especially for those not feeling heard, is that they will get louder and fight for dominance, while the other surrenders or steps aside. But that's when the real problem starts. Because that's when low-key resentment starts to settle in. And the usual next step tends to be a compromise, as they both start to imagine a room that satisfies nobody, and to look like the beige flag of neutrality. A place where the minimalist has won with their need to have only 3 decorative objects, and the collector quietly relocated their grandmother's lamp to a closet, where it will secretly build resentment with time. That's not a compromise. That's mutual dissatisfaction or even defeat. A real compromise in a shared space that's not about each person getting half, nor is it about one person always getting what they want. A space needs to feel intentional, rather than negotiated. The way you do that is by first setting the mission for the space, then asking what do we want the feeling of this space to be. That is what the fusion of styling desires are all about. But when certain couples or partners both have very strong ideas about how they want to live, finding common ground is especially important. The more dominant person will hold on tight to what they feel is correct, while the other may not wish to engage or just doesn't feel that throw pillows are worth an argument, so they stay quiet. And I'm sure that you can guess that both dispositions are wrong and not how healthy communication occurs. When involved in a project, and phrases like, well, the space just feels like it needs something, or, yeah, it's fine. These are two people chasing a desired outcome and trying to be heard. Perhaps one, or maybe even both, do not feel comfortable stating that this is not the way I want to live. So let's see what we can create together that encompasses both of our desires. And those first steps, like stated already, need to start with an understanding of what the mission is for the specific space, followed by another mutual agreement on what they both want the feeling to be within that same space, such as wanting a warm, welcoming vibe or a stately and reserved atmosphere. Then you can move on to a basic agreement for a color direction, which absolutely can change through time. But first, you must set the groundwork of where that room will start. When we create our spaces, I don't think anyone desires to have a style off with their partners on what styling direction should prevail over another's. And the reality is that it's not about figuring out who gets to lead the style direction. It should be all about fusing the two different style visions together correctly so that they both have a voice. What many do not understand nor embrace is how well different interior styles can mix quite nicely when done correctly, and yes, it does take a good eye to fuse those objects in the room to create flow. With so many believing that they are the design masters of their spaces, even turning to ChatGPT because they have all the perfect answers. But when creating a fusion style direction, or an amalgamation of both styles, it can be difficult. But no matter the style direction that is in play, calm and warm can live in the same room. Uncluttered and personal can also coexist, along with sophisticated and comfortable. But the majority of you will remain stuck at the beginning stages of creating a space, and that is buying and placing the basic furniture pieces for a room, and never moving forward to the actual styling of the interior. So if you're in the process of combining or creating a whole new space and you both bring two different style desires, then start with these basics for a much-needed middle ground for a mutual compromise when creating a space together. Styling fact number 1. Start by looking at the bones of a room and figuring out what is the main mission of that room: living, rest, or work. Then you both need to mutually agree on what the desired feelings are that you want this space to project. Do you want the space to feel warm and inviting, calming and relaxing, or stimulating and joyful are just a few common emotional desired directions? Styling fact number 2. Now that you have a concept of the mission and the desired emotional output, start the selection of the largest piece of furniture for that needed space. Something to consider is whether this area is more formal, with limited use, or is it for everyday use, with a desire for comfort and durability. This is a major deciding factor here, not whose voice is more dominant. Style fact number 3. Now it is time to finish the space and choose the rest of the needed frame styles to complete the space. Styling fact number 4 is all about selecting the color palette for the space. If one person insists on neutrals, while the other leans towards color for desired maintenance and interest, and you both remain steadfast in your preferences, then a compromise needs to be front and center, and that compromise usually brings us into the beige lane. Not cream, not white, but deep saturated beige tones. But also do not forget about browns, blacks and charcoal grays, either in various shades and tones for a great neutral starting point. A very important element here to consider when selecting the color palette is how one responds to sensory triggers of a space. Can they relax around visual noise? Then perhaps the base layer of the room should be quieter. That allows the other person to layer in warmth and character in ways that feel intentional rather than accumulated. It must be some sort of shared experience. Okay, now let's hit the pause button here again. In many cases, designers will try to bridge the gap of opposing style desires by playing both designer and therapist. And yes, it's always shocking to have front row seats to how the specific partnerships choose to engage in what they want, by either being downright rude and aggressive, or by being passive and cold. But these situations are very common, because someone will always want to have control, while the other usually subsides. These arguments usually occur while being completely unfazed that anyone else is around them. This is the point where there really is no one winner. A possible solution: give each person a zone. Not in a your side of the room, or something that reads like a dorm room standoff, but in the sense that every shared space should have at least one area that they call their own, a gallery wall, or a reading chair in the corner. These style standoffs have nothing to do with the 12 design principles for great spatial engineering. Because when two people come together to create a space, you will have nothing but conflict if you're both just trying to force certain design preferences. The room will feel like a standoff, no matter how beautiful the individual pieces are. A space reads intention when both people have agreed, even loosely, on what they're building together. Here's the thing about two people with different style instincts sharing a space. The subsurface is rarely actually about styling. It is about wanting to feel safe in your own home. It is about whose idea of comfort that gets to be the default. It is about whether the space you come back to every day reflects you, or you are just merely tolerating the space. Good design solves that. It's never about picking a winner, but about building a room that neither person has to feel less in. A room where both of you can exhale, which is, in the end, the only thing a home is actually for. That lamp that was forced to go into the closet can work. It's about fusion and flow of both styles, and not just sitting there like a last-minute thought. A space that reads collected. It communicates. This space holds both of us. But the most important aspect or takeaway from this video: let one style set the structure of the furniture placement, and then let the other person set the soul of the space. This is the design insight that resolves more conflicting style situations than anything else. Having good lines, a restrained palette, and intentional negative space is actually the best possible background for a layered, collected, personality-forward approach. And a warm, storied interior is often elevated, not diminished, by moments of visual rest. The minimalist provides the exhale. The collector provides the pulse, and a good room always needs both. But many people, when they create their spaces, are design deaf. It's their way or no way. So you might want to ask yourself a very important question. Is this how you want to live? Constantly negotiating your style? How about you both finding a middle ground? With that said, SDS looks forward to you stopping by again, and thank you so much for your likes and hypes. Plus, please take a minute to subscribe if you're not already. SDS really needs your help to push this channel into the algorithm more, plus, share with others help too. Until next time, my stylistas. Ciao Bella.